First impressions have been riding the bike only for about 5 seconds now, but I have to say I love the way this bike feels when you sit on it. It just feels very big and menacing, and that's exactly the look I'm sure they've gone for. That's exactly the look that a lot of its buyers would want, and it's very comfortable to ride as well. Like, I don't usually like the forward extended foot pegs on a lot of these cruisers, but it's not so extreme with this one. I think you can get used to it fairly quickly. The Intruder actually, which is more of a faux cruiser or more of a poser cruiser if you want to call it that, had more of an aggressive foot peg stance, whereas this one is really comfy, it's really nice, and it has a great thump to it. Now of course you cannot compare it to the Royal Enfields. If you are watching and you're an Enfield fanboy, then yes, it will not have the same kind of thump, but I quite enjoy this one. It is definitely way more than I was expecting. Braking is quite deliberate as well. Now you have to understand that this bike does not have ABS, but the brakes that it has are getting the job done quite sufficiently. Now as you can see, it's got a nice matte green finish over here. I like the color and the finish of it. The stickering, not such a big fan of it because it actually looks like an aftermarket modification, but the speedometer is actually on the fuel tank. As you can see, you've got a gear indicator as well, and it's fairly simple, keeping in consistency with the overall look and design of the bike. Here is the opening to the fuel tank. As a result of it, the handlebar and you know, everything else that you see over here, the aesthetic looks quite simple and rugged. I actually feel like one of those American bad boys sitting out here with my leather jacket, my leather shoes. I also have a bandana in my pocket, and of course, as you people know, if you're a subscriber of the Savant Life, I have long hair as well, so I'm totally digging this vibe right now. I love the feeling of this bike. I don't know what else to say. I think that I should just wrap up the review right here and get on with my day, because I don't even feel like getting into the specifications and all of that. There are some bikes that you buy for the feel, and this is definitely one of them. I'm just thinking that if this bike feels like this, just imagine what a Harley Davidson would feel like. An Iron 883 or something like that. But again, the Iron 883 would not have this low slung seating position like this one does. This is more comparable to the Street Rod 750, or even for instance the Bajaj Avenger, even though that's a much smaller bike. And look at this, we're right now in Baswanguri, and you know, fun little fact, I actually grew up over here. So these apartments are called Crest Park, and they used to be in this beautiful powdery blue color. Right now they seem to have changed, and they're an orange, or this dull orange, which does not look that great. But I have a lot of childhood memories from this place. It is just so beautiful, and you can see the sun coming out. This used to be a house of my friend. It's still exactly the same. It's got a well, it's got a bird pond, it's got all of those things. But anyways, I know that you're probably not interested in my childhood stories as of right now, so we can get back to the bike. The rear view mirrors, as you can see, have great visibility. They're quite far apart, and as a result of it, you get a full view of everything that is behind you. And man, oh man, this is the house that I grew up in. It was not an apartment like this. It was a beautiful big house with an open veranda in the front. But anyways, I'm going to get back to the bike, keep it focused over here where it matters for right now. And I'm kind of intentionally taking these small lanes because I want to see how the bike maneuvers, because it's all well and good for you to have that feeling and that thump on big wide roads, but when you're kind of going through small lanes like that, it feels a little bit challenging. I mean, not too much. Again, you have to keep in mind that this bike is a fairly heavy bike. It weighs in at about 179 kgs, which is definitely not light by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it still handles sufficiently well. There isn't too much of traffic right now because it's about 7:30 in the morning, so I can't really tell. However, I think with a little bit of riding experience on this bike, you should be able to get used to it in no time. But as long as you have roads like these, it's makhan riding on this bike. Nice. And I have to say, I'm in love with the suspension of this bike as well. It takes the speed breakers and the humps and the little bit of potholes that have thrown its way very, very smoothly. It takes it completely in its stride, and that is definitely a big thumbs up for the work that the UM people have done on this bike. So for those of you who don't know, the bike is manufactured by UM and the Lohia group in India, and even though UM positions itself as an American brand, 70% of this bike is made in India, and the remaining 30% comes from China. So even though it has only, in a technical way, an American marquee, it for all practical purposes is an Indo-Chinese bike, is what this is. Let's try a little bit of filtering, shall we? Probably not the best thing to do on a cruiser, but you see that? It can get the job done. It can sure as well get the job done. The feel that you get from this bike though is something else altogether. I have to keep repeating that because I'm so in love with it. I never thought that I would be such a big cruiser fan. I'm usually a naked bike guy, probably a racing sport once in a while, but this is surpassing my expectations big time. Okay, let's see what the bike is capable of on the main road, wherein you don't have too many limits except for this auto and that humongous speed breaker over there. The gear shifting is quite smooth, but if you let the bike go like I did just now, you're going to have to use both of the brakes in order to bring it back under control, and that's a very important thing for you to remember. And let's hit a left turn over here. You've got plenty of empty road. Park the bike somewhere over here. Oh my god, these fucking dogs, I tell you. It's like there's no end to it. So on we go with the Renegade Commando, and I just have to point out that this bike attracts a lot of attention. A lot of people turning around and checking it out multiple times over. And if you're into that kind of a thing, then this bike is definitely right up your alley. And it has some power, make no mistake about it. This is not one of those neutered cruisers. Ultimately, it's got a 4-valve, single-cylinder, 280cc engine that can produce about 24.8 bhp of power and 23 newton meters of torque, and you could see that right there. The only thing that I've not really liked all that much so far is that there are a few false neutrals with this bike, but again, before I pin it onto the motorcycle, that could also be me not really kind of getting very familiar or very well acquainted with the bike. But overall, I'm loving it. The braking duties are quite good as well. You have a 280mm disc at the front and a 130mm disc at the back. Again, this is not groundbreaking. This is not something that you've never seen before, but it gets the job done sufficiently well, which is what I can say overall about this bike as well. Now what I'm riding over here, as you might know, is the Renegade Commando, but UM has basically 4 motorcycles on offer in India. So you've got this one which I'm riding, the Renegade Commando, which comes in 3 different colors: the matte green, the matte red and the matte black, of course. And then you've got the Renegade Commando Classic, which has a glossy paint scheme and a different kind of a look. Then you've got the Renegade Commando Mojave, and finally you have the Renegade Commando Style Sport S, I think is what it's called, and that's the one with the black and orange combination, the black and silver combination, which looks, I think, really, really good. And surprisingly is priced a little lower than this. Now if you're wondering about the price of this bike, this comes in at about 2.2 lakhs on road in a city like Bangalore, and if you're living elsewhere in the country it would be a little cheaper. So it's not an affordable bike by any stretch of the imagination if you're typically thinking of 150 to 200cc bikes in that 1.4, 1.5 lakh range. Of course you can get a Dominar at about 1.6, 1.7. However, this is a unique bike. It is, like they say locally, it's a shoky bike, and if you have those kind of passions, if you have those kind of interests, if you want to stand out on the road, if you want to be unique, and if you want to get that cruiser feeling, because I can guarantee you that a Mahindra Mojo or even a Bajaj Dominar will not give you this kind of a feeling. However, if you're a hardcore Bajaj fan, or if you're a hardcore Royal Enfield fan, then I don't know if this is enough to tempt you away from it, because again, brand loyalties are cultivated over a period of time, and whether they make sense or not, at the end of the day, people stick on to brands because it means more than just the product to them. And in that sense, I have my doubts if, you know, people who ride these kind of bikes would necessarily want to look at the Renegade Commando. However, if you're a practical person, like for example the owner of this bike, he used to be a Royal Enfield owner before this bike, but he decided that he'd had enough of it. He wanted something different, and as a result he moved towards this, and from what I can tell, he seems to be quite happy about that. You can also watch my interview with him over here. I'll link it up somewhere on the screen, and also leave a link in the description section below. So guys, what do you think of the UM Renegade Commando? Especially if any of you watching out there happen to own this bike. Let me know about your thoughts in the comment section below, and also how you found the maintenance and the servicing from the UM guys. But for right now, I think I'm done with this video. I've kind of ridden the bike quite a bit, and I have to say I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So if you like this video, then go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. If you have any comments, questions or observations, then leave them in the comment section below. And as always, if this is your first time around with the Savant Life, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button, click on the bell icon as well, so that you can be notified when I put out more new videos. I will see you in the next one. Until then, thank you so much for watching. Take care, ride safe, be good, and as always, have fun. Bada boom.